In the session where we talked about identity, some really good things were shared. In addition to everything that's there, I wanted to add some thoughts about children in blended families and their identity. First of all, let's acknowledge that the family is trying to create an identity as well. And what I mean by that is, when you become husband and wife, you become a married couple and you declare to the world that we're in a covenant relationship till death do us part. But the rest of the family is now trying to figure out what that means for them, right? And now I have a step sibling, and so how are you a step sibling to me? What does that mean? I have a dad, now I have a stepdad, so what does that mean? What place in my heart do I hold special for you? How do I do that without pushing my dad out? Those are all the things that a child is trying to work out. And the family itself is saying, who are we? What is our culture? What do we like? What are our rituals? We don't have traditions yet. You're working all of that out. So at the same time, you have this child who's walking through life and developmentally asking questions about who they are in the world and their purpose in life. The family is trying to work out its own identity as well. And sometimes those things collide. Like you as a parent or step-parent are so busy trying to bring the family together in harmony that you kind of forget that you got individual children over here working out their own life journey. And so just be aware that both of those things are going on. Now here's another way those things collide. Your family identity, you're trying to figure out how we fit together, but you have different last names, for example. Last names matter to children. That's who they belong to. That's their family history. That's their cultural history. They're connected in their identity to their biological parents. That matters to them. So for example, step-parents often are eager to adopt their stepchildren, and that's a great desire, but you don't want to get ahead of them in that because that changes the last name. That's a pretty serious issue for a child. So go slow on that. I'll say a little more about that in just a minute. Just understand that kids are working all of this out. You want to go in parallel to what's happening with them as individuals. One of the things you'll notice is that the terms they use for their step-parent, for example, often are indicative of how they're working through their individual identity and the family identity. So kids who say, "You're my mom," to a stepmother have worked through it. They're good with that. Let them do that if that's their choice. But a child who's just rather call you Susie, you're eager for them to call you mom or mama or whatever, something that indicates a heart and a connection to you. That's something they've got to decide. Don't rush them on that because now you're messing with their identity. See, that's important. Don't get the family identity questions ahead of the individual child identity. Now back to that adoption issue. Let adoption represent the culmination of a journey for you with a child. But in our culture, the wedding is the culmination of dating and falling in love and choosing one another and making a commitment till death do us part, and then it's culminated in a wedding. Let an adoption be the same thing. Bonded, connected relationship, developing a history. Man, I love you, you love me. What do you think? Should we make our last names the same? At that point, the child is ready, the adults are ready, and it culminates the process. If you get that out of order, it can create some difficulty for a child, some inner conflict they don't need. Well, sometimes step-parents get a little tied up in knots around what term the child uses for them. A stepmom who says, "Hey, call me mom," is a really big heart and a desire to have a deep connection with the child. It's well-intended. But what that does to a child's heart is it says, "I'm pushing your mom out of your heart and I'm stepping into the mom place." And hey, there's only one mom place. Right? It's just really special. There's only one dad place. It's very unique and special. And it's not your choice who goes there. So that has to be the child's choice. So here's the guiding principle. Let the child decide what they want to call you. Yes, you can insist that it be respectful. They can't call you step nerd or I hate you. That doesn't work, right? That won't fly. But other than that, you ought to let them decide, and you need to be okay with it. And then realize that it's going to ebb and flow. So some kids, after a couple of years, for example, start saying, "Hey, mom, can I?" And it just comes out of their mouth. And you kind of went, "Oh, they just called me mom." And they just kind of caught themselves and they kind of went all right. And then they go to mom's house for the weekend. And then they come back and you're back to being Susie or Jane or whatever your first name is. And it feels informal again. And you're going, "What happened?" Well, what happened is they were just with mom. And that's a really special place in their heart. And now they're missing mom because they're back over here at dad's house. And you see, that's what kids are going through. So it will ebb and it will flow. You got to be okay with whatever they come up with. Keep in mind, only 30% of kids will ever use that term, mom for stepmom or dad for stepdad. Only 30%. That's not your goal, to become mom. That should not be your goal. Your goal is a great relationship. Because remember, a rose, by any other name, is still family.